I'm just reading all the comments, y'all. Sorry. I'm always caught up in what y'all are doing. Man, what is going on tonight? How are y'all doing? Everybody doing well? Everybody having the evening you should? Or are you having the week you should? Boy, don't you just hate it when you tout a big week for Iraq to do all these mega huge things, and then these fools come out with some delays? It really makes you kind of mad, doesn't it? I mean, like, for real.
Delay is Iraq's middle name.
Oh my God. Iraq in Arabic must mean delay. It must. These fools just are fighting internationalism tooth and freaking nail.
Do you remember what I said on Friday?
I don't want to talk about Friday. What'd you say?
January 20th.
Ow! She is the kiss of death, y'all. She is the one that jinxed us. I'm telling you. And I'm seeing it all in the comments.
How long has Iraq been delayed?
Oh my God.
How many times?
Oh my God.
How long? How we been?
Am I the only one that believes in Iraq?
I think I was 21 when all this started.
you were
I was a young.
I was gonna say fine tender rounding.
Hey now. Ain't gonna have me on crutches or on
oh
a
my
walker
God, these
by
idiots.
the time this go.
Okay, y'all.
I'm ready to go.
I ain't giving up hope, and I ain't giving up the show. You know what it is. Ladies first.
I am.
Or you was.
I am, and always will be. April BB.
Miss Jackson, if you're nasty.
Ooh.
And the ultimately humble Mr. Brando.
AKA Nasty Boy.
AKA okay, Nasty Boy, AKA I can't guess it right, AKA I can't get nothing right. Oh my God. And you know what? I'm not even mad at myself. I'm blaming it all on Mr. Frazier. My boy.
How is Mr. Frazier?
He's good. I talked to him earlier.
Shout out to Mr. Frazier.
Mr. Frazier in the hizzy. Shout out to Babe. Shout out to everybody that has taken their time out to do exactly what it is, you know what I'm saying, I thought we would be doing today, which is talk about Iraq. Understand this. When we try to introduce people to you guys, we try to introduce them with the theory and the thought process that we're bringing you closer to the freaking investment, right? Yeah, I could be wrong about this month, and I know about the delays, and yes, I know about this, and yes, I know about that. Am I still frowned upon April? Yes. But I also know that some big things happen with the large institutions about putting off time, about them asking for more time to get more things done. Does that change our thing? No, because what their thing is totally different than our thing, and their thing doesn't affect our thing. But it's kind of funny when Pempe said all that stuff about, you know what I mean, them setting off stuff, Brexit being put off, and that being put off, and this being put off. And I thought, not Iraq. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna do what's right. These mother truckers.
Keep on trucking.
Man, these guys, man, if this isn't the kiss of death, I swear, but I'm still not down the investment at all. And you guys, look, if you guys don't follow us on Twitter, oh my gosh, I've been in Twitter beef after Twitter beef about, is this really going to happen? And I'm going to go this on record saying, yes, I do like April. Am I saying that April is the end all be all for the investment? No, but I liked April. I still like April for everything that can happen and what everything I think should happen. Okay. The U.S. slapped sanctions on the ISIS financiers. I think that's another huge point. Why would you sanction people for a currency that's undervalued and it's worthless? Britain reveals the factors of deterioration of Iraqi's economy, which we all know is basically, it's kind of like the summation of what Sauter said the other day, which is corruption. You want to know what's holding up the investment? Corruption. What's going now? Am I going to sit here and be so bleak as to say, until you get rid of Iran and until you get rid of the militia, it's not going to happen? No, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that because that's not true. They still are majorly, and there's some majorly awesome news that's out there too. Okay, and when we get into that, I'll go into that. So the ministry, and also we're gonna have Jan on tonight. Jan, the economist, remember?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have Jan on tonight. Jan's gonna talk to us for the last 20-30 minutes or so about just certain things about how do you value things like out of nothing, you know what I mean? Which I think is important for creating a fiat currency. How could they revalue it, or how could a value be derived, so to speak? Mm-hmm. We're gonna talk about trust, right? And we're going to save another conversation for a later date, but we're going to just talk about a few things I think are very much, because Jan, just like I said, very much believes so that we're going to be in the wealth transfer very, very quickly. And when I say wealth transfer, I don't mean some Jessera Nesra crap. I mean actually where there's going to be an asset wealth change amongst people that didn't have the people that have, whether it be ISX, whether it be that they have the Iraqi dinar, whether it be the Vietnamese dong. Something is going to happen that's going to release a lot of cash
today's
flow.
April 17th.
Correct.
April 19th. Didn't they say
they were going to launch ISX?
Yes.
That's what they said.
2 more days.
2 more days. So, I mean.
2 more days.
2 more days.
2 more days from today is Friday.
Friday. So,
Freaky
Friday.
Friday.
Freaky Friday.
Okay.
So, we're looking out for Friday.
Ready.
And when we're counting these days down, right? I mean, like, we're watching these little benchmarks pass, and I hope no one's getting down on this. Don't. If you guess wrong, you know what? It's called speculative for a reason. Does it mean it won't happen? No. It just means like I didn't guess it right. I'll guess it right without guessing it 5,000 times because we're not looking at this from the whole standpoint of aliens or baby carriages or some weird thing. We're looking at this from actual news and from events. The Minister of Interior announced on Monday the arrest of the most dangerous electronic hacker. I'm telling you guys, everything in the Iraqi news, if it isn't about them getting ready for reconstruction, whatever it is about hacking, about counterfeiting, and about other things that are really great for our news. And they just arrested one of the biggest hackers in Iraq this week. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce introduced their new appointment, the first executive director in Iraq, and he was there and he gave the embassy a kind of a thumbs up. He said they really look they look forward to working with him. His name is Haram, to promote cooperation and partnership. Remember, the Chamber of Commerce in Iraq is kind of like the gateway for all the businesses. So keeping a good relationship between those two entities is huge. I think that people underplay the whole fact that if they weren't going to do business internationally, why would Kia be there? Why would Toyota be there? So don't say it ain't happening. Well, we know it ain't happening, but it's going to happen. It has to happen. They have to reinstate their currency to move forward to the international stage. Now, Kurdistan region reveals 2018 files of corruption. Now, Kurdistan's jumping on board. You guys noticed the other day that they put their whole, the Commission of Integrity in Kurdistan put about 200 files out there. 73 a brigade, 9 officers, 3 general managers, 41 ordinary managers, a district commander, a district manager, and a number of other segments were charged with corruption. They're very serious about getting the corrupt out of Iraq right now, and I think that's a very good thing. And this is where I kind of posted this on Twitter, and I also posted this on YouTube. And this is very confusing, so I'm going to read it to you guys. It says, Sadr is convinced of me, Prime Minister. So this is a body in some oddball news article from Tazabarak.news. It says, he thinks Sadr is going to give him the nod to go ahead and go through with a coup. Okay, and they're going to rename him minister. If that's not as loony as I have ever heard, Sadr has no problem speaking out about Maliki, no problem speaking out against this person. Don't you think that if Sadr had any inkling of making Abadi the prime minister, he would have just done it from the start?
Yeah. So
don't believe everything that you see, and I'm not saying everything you see you can't believe. I'm just saying some things you got to just classify as straight POS, right? And then Sadr comes out in the very next article, right, and says, Sadr will launch a final and decisive element to eliminate the spoilers. He's talking about the corrupt. And he goes on to explain that in the next 90 days, he's going to go after the corrupt. He says of the politicians is a right of certainty and is clearer than the sun, the rays in the silver of the sky, the light of the moon in the night of the darkness, except what my God. Now, he's really, really preaching here. And what he's saying is that if you stand with the corrupt and you're part of the whole government process, he's going to eliminate you. He's going after you. Whatever's lit the fire under Sadr's behind, I hope that he gets with it. And he said the next 90 days are going to wreak havoc on the corrupt. Mm-hmm. Now, I wish he would start with the most corrupt all. Maliki. But Maliki's super freaky, and I hope they keep him on Freaky Friday. Now, I'm saying that to say this. I really think that arresting a lot of these mid-managers and stuff like that's important because, remember, Maliki's power base is not the high up, right? It's the middle people. It's the lower people. Mm-hmm. So that's why they're attacking those lower people. Don't misunderstand it for what it is. They're trying to subdue his power base. You get rid of the little people, Maliki doesn't have any power for the briberies and the stuff like that, stuff that holds up our investment or gives that money for reconstruction in corrupt hands. Don't forget that, okay? That's very important. Okay, remember, I told you guys that I wanted to see the financial management law under vote today. Well, it comes to find out They have been in a 3-day workshop amending the law. Now, I'll take this as an L. I want to see a vote today, but they are amending the law to get rid of more red tape and to make it a benefit for the law significantly. And they had it as a voice vote, I believe, against the Council of Ministers. And with that, they have been in this workshop trying to work it out. Remember, the Finance Ministry the Federal Financial Management Act is basically what they said they needed to move the needle on the exchange rate of the Iraqi dinar. So I don't care if it takes them a couple days to do this. I really want to see this happen. And with this workshop, it gives me greater faith that it's going to happen. Kind of like if you remember a couple weeks ago, I read you that there was a big workshop to do what? Delete the 3 zeros. Right. Don't forget that all these things coincide and they all go together. They have to have the needle moved. They have to delete the zeros. They're doing major things to get things done. And this to me was the silver lining on today, that it wasn't just a vote. They didn't vote on it. It's actually a workshop and they voted, but they needed to amend a few things and they're making those things happen. I thought that was.
Now, do you think the ISX is going to go this month?
I mean, to me, okay, let me give you an example. Is it the chicken or the egg? You can't have the ISX without having an internationally recognized currency. You can't. Now, can they launch online trading? No, not without having a
because it's
currency.
So I'm sorry, because this is just sticking in my head. Because in order for it to happen Friday, then the currency would need to be reinstated, right?
By Friday, the currency would have to be reinstated. Not value associated with it. It would just have to be reinstated. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Now, so do you think that'll happen by then? Like, could that happen?
I mean, anything's possible.
So it's Wednesday, 2 days, and it's Friday their off day.
Friday's a holy day, yes.
Okay, so where did we get the 19th from? It was in
article they wrote that they said that they were going to launch by the 19th. Now, here's an even stranger thing to that. They're supposed to have this total banking inclusion by the 25th. So your 19th date didn't really throw me that far off, because the 25th, there was this huge article out a few days ago or weeks ago, and me and another lady and another dinar group were talking about it, that they're supposed to have complete financial inclusion. I don't know if could they see the new the thumbnail for today?
Well, the thumbnail is the
picture of the kids and stuff.
Well, I don't know if they saw it because it's your placeholder for this video.
That thumbnail, what it is on the CBI website was a picture, and it was a thing on there about the financial inclusion and teaching kids how to save and telling kids to come put their money in a bank, because if they put their money in a bank, good things would happen to them. Mm. And that's what the thumbnail's all about. And I couldn't translate it all, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I thought it was a really cool thumbnail, because inclusion with the bank promotes the ISX going live, and it promotes banking inclusion. You got a recognizable rate. You got people at the bank. And that's why I always tell people, in my opinion now, Pepe and I have been talking about this. In my opinion, that's why I think the rate has to be of some type of substantial value, because why else would I go to the bank if it wasn't on par with the currency that is pegged to currently? Okay? That doesn't make any sense. The central bank payments. On Tuesday, that foreign exchange reserves rose from 40 billion to 62 billion. The central bank has managed to control the level of inflation. Remember, level of inflation is a major characteristic and a major thing that holds up or down the exchange process. The better that you hold off the inflation, the higher the exchange rate can be. And it says it says adjust the exchange rate and close the gap between the official price and the market price, said in an interview with an official newspaper. Now, I think it's a major thing. And at oil, at basically $70 a barrel, they're going through a surplus. And I told you guys earlier that we should see oil maintain between about $60 to about $63 per barrel. And I don't really see that going down unless the U.S. starts to flood the market. Iraq signs 13 agreements of memorandum of understanding with Saudi Arabia. I told you guys that I thought the more that I saw that Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Israel, people like that, their neighbors that got involved in Iraq and did more trading, we're going to have a bigger benefit for Iraq as an economy than all the trade or all the GDP that they could, or all, the trade partnerships they could have with Iran in a nutshell. So I'm very happy to see that them sign those things.
JF wrote, Intel guru Rayrin 98 said, we received information from the contractors were paid and it was under the new rates. More lower denominations are trickling out on the streets, and that the new rates are set.
I will say this right now, there are no lower denominations out in the street. I already know that for a fact. I've already asked 2 people in Iraq if they've seen any lower denominations, anything lower than a 5 or 250. They said no.
Okay.
So I'm no offense to Ray Ren or whatever, but I don't mean to be rude to anybody or sound like a jerk, but that's just simply not true. And I can prove it's not true because we can get him a talk on the phone and he'll tell you it ain't true. The Ministry of Trade Cooperation with Saudi, it's positive repercussions for the Iraqi economy. He said Dr. Mohammed Al-Aneed, who is accompanying the Iraqi delegation, which is visiting Saudi Arabia under the chairmanship of the Prime Minister. He said the events of the signage is a huge benefit to both people and the 13 members of understanding Iraq and Saudi Arabia in the presence of Prime Minister and His Majesty, the King Salim bin Aziz, and the ministers from Iraq and Saudi sides. The agreements and memorandums of understanding include signing a memorandum of understanding and its political consultations, an agreement of the mutual recognition of product conformity certificate, the investment promotion of protection agreement, understanding of agricultural cooperation, understanding in the field of industry and mineral wealth, and oil and gas memorandum of understanding, energy memorandum of understanding, so on, field of scientific educational cooperations. Now, don't count stuff as short as stuff that being about scientific stuff. One of the big problems that President Trump is having with China and their trade agreement is he wants to have the intellectual property stuff signed off on. So when you start to see stuff about science and education and stuff like that, I used to discount that as being actual just crap, but it's not. It has everything to do with intellectual properties and people stealing people's industry. You know what I mean? Hold on. Just heard you talk about this on show. Did I help out or any usual your WS? Great show anyway. Thank you. Thanks, Guy. Yeah, we're talking about everything you guys send me. They stalled the vote on the amendment law, and they made it into a 3-day workshop. I told you about that. The parliament postpones the consideration. Now, I think this is kind of the weirdest excuse I've ever heard. They suspended some votes today because they said some of the ministers had health issues. Now, remember, there's like 12 or 15 ministers that are up for replacement, and now they're saying that they weren't going to postpone it. They were going to go ahead and make them vote in 3 days. So it's going to be on the 17th that they said. So it's just really odd. I mean, health reasons. Now, Pompeo's Iran Revolutionary Guard controls 20% of the Iraqi economy. Now, the invasion integrity announces the frustration of the installation of the internet receives. In Basra, the Iraqi press publishes the text of the mineral investment law, transports the Council of Ministers approved the accession of Iraq to the International Container Safety Convention, who are taking about $8 billion in corruption in the Basra pipeline. So that pipeline needs to be secured. Things need to get done. And when they get done, then you will have basically a greater level of stability in the region. And with that, we are going to take a couple quick questions. Is there any questions out there from anybody?
I've been asking them along the way. I'm still going through it, but there, there's comments.
What's the comment? Take it.
Like Frankie said, ISX Friday done, then Saturday they'll reinstate.
That'd be awesome.
In front of the Arab nations, and he has praying hands.
It'd be amazing if that was the tale that would be happening. I mean, honestly, that would be like the ultimate thing, right? That they step out and for the world in front of their own brethren and say we're ready to be international acceptance.
And then no work Monday for me.
Yeah, no work Monday for anybody, really.
Right.
Be off Sunday for each one and no work Monday for all of us. That'd be awesome.
Never ever.
Anybody say anything else here?
I'm going through them.
You guys have your questions for Jan. Just start thinking about them. Remember, Jan's our economist, the person that helps us wealth management, strategic planning, anything and everything about not just making wealth, but keeping wealth. Oh, we've got our obligatory 2 thumbs down. Thank you, fans, for watching and commenting. We got 70 people righteously thumbs up. Thank you.
Crew said, I'm done with all the damn Iraq delays.
Me too, man.
Give me $3 USD per dinar.
Damn it. Do it now. Stop playing around.
Hello, Mr. Brando, first time caller, talking about the Trade International Bank that's opening up in Saudi Arabia and Iraq joining the GCC.
I mean, they were going to join the GCC anyway, and that's part of the reason for the dinar's purpose is having the ability to have it as, a stability, a strong point as currency goes.
Do I need to check on Daisy?
No, Daisy's fine. Maria's going to let her out and everything. I don't think, and it could be 2020, y'all. I don't know, but I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm just saying that their extension to the global market is not an easy one. Am I making excuses for them? Probably right now. But I think honestly that if you're going to look at this from a realistic standpoint, when they delayed the cabinet vote and then they delayed the financial management bill vote, it kind of set me off by a whole week. Now, it still doesn't mean that by May 5th, by sundown, that something couldn't happen, or the 19th, if the ISX launches and it goes into online trading, then everything's all good.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I'm still watching the clock. I'm still anxiously watching the clock to see what could possibly happen. Working people in Hawaii exchange. You can exchange at any international bank that recognizes international currencies. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, 2 investors I know asked if I had, but I don't know what that's about. It's a waiting game. Yeah, it's called a shoebox investment for no reason at all, but because you have to stick in the shoebox and just wait on it. Maria's leaving, y'all. You can probably hear Daisy going crazy because Daisy likes Maria and doesn't want her to leave. Hawaii is a nice place to live. I know, right, crew? I'm with you. Just give me my money. David, I think I just answered your question. I got a very interesting email from a person that works for a high-up company that does global funding, and it talked directly about the dinar and funding the Vietnamese dong and the Iraqi dinar. Thought the actual email itself was super interesting. I kind of lost me when it said some things about some other information, but it was funny that this global funding corporation was heavily invested in Iraq and was saying great things about the valuation of it going up and then being able to utilize that investment for other strategic moves that they were making. I thought that was very interesting. Okay. Yeah, Kia's already got the factory set up in Iraq, and they're ready to rock and roll. They're just waiting for car parts to be delivered so they can start manufacturing. Kia, and a South Korean company in Iraq, is huge. I can't stress it enough. That's probably one of the largest manufacturing things that I've ever heard of going into Iraq ever. So that's a massive thing to me.
Chris said 100,000 dinar for sale. 300 USD, you need takers. 300,000 USD.
Oh, okay. Shoot, yeah.
Says, Mr. Brando, are we still on track to give us some juicy information on the 23rd?
Yep, very much so. I've talked to my boy, and yeah, he's got the info. Now, I will tell you this. Is it earth-shattering? It's very different. I already heard it. Does it affect us? But the very odd thing about it is that the players involved didn't get into this to lose money, okay? So I can't say that it's a knockout the park for us in a clear-cut road, but you got to stay tuned to when he can tell us exactly what it all means, and I have experts on board to explain the meaning of what he says. So he's going to tell you what it is, right? Then I've got someone who's going to come in and say the meaning of what it says. Now, what I want you guys to think of, and I think this is a crucial point, this is why I brought up the crypto world. You ever notice how cryptocurrencies take something that's valueless, like a coin, right? Mm-hmm. They attach some paper to it. It creates a value, and it creates a supply. It creates a demand. Do you see what I'm saying? And shout out to my doctor friend, Killer Clown, that came to me today with an absolute wonderful scenario about how they could revalue the Iraqi dinar and at what percentage point. And I agree with them. But the only thing that he missed out was on one crucial thing that my friend on the 23rd is going to point out. That's going to substantiate the larger growth than what he projected. But what I want these crypto minds that are in this group to think of is, how would Iraq create a value to a worthless currency and create a supply and demand for it? If you're going to utilize it in trade, it can be utilized as a stronghold, an anchoring point, something. But help me to figure out, how do you create enough of a balance, of a buying frenzy for it to substantiate it going crazy, okay? Just like they do a cryptocurrency. What's up, Rendenza? Good to see you, brother. Talk about GCC, GCC, GCC. The GCC is going to be huge. That's that regional trading partnership amongst all those Arab countries. If you guys don't understand that One Belt, One Road, One Initiative, that is going down, y'all. That is a major, major thing. And that GCC is going to be right at the foothold. Pempe nailed it right on the head. It's going to be a center point, a huge, huge, huge piece of the puzzle as far as why Iraq is in play for the trade agreements for the GCC. He said, I think we're so close at this point, you can't believe what you're hearing. No, I agree with you, Mark. You can't believe what you're hearing all the time, because what you're hearing all the time, a lot of it's just flat out wrong. JF says Trump will give us the RV. I wish Trump would. I wish Trump would just go in there, demand it with the Federal Reserve, and kick them and the IMF in the butt and say, pull the trigger.
Jack Daniels says, what if all the delays is just to get people frustrated and have them in a rage to quit and sell back their dinar at a lower rate?
Well, of course, that's part of it, in my opinion. And I'll tell you why. Think about this, y'all. I'm on Twitter all the time, and the only thing that I ever hear now between all these different dinarians that are supposedly in the know about stuff is, well, prove me that it's going to happen. And their only excuse, the reason why, is it hasn't happened. And because it hasn't happened, it justifies their whole reason for not happening. But that's why I keep telling you guys, you got to read stuff. You got to go out there and secure the Memorandum of Understanding from 2014 and read the 2014 to the 2019 and read your SBA agreements. And if any of you guys want the financial Memorandum of Understanding from the IMF and how they value currencies in the 60 countries that they were looking at to value those currencies, if that doesn't tell you that they were going to do it, I don't know what else is. But I can't just tell you all about it all the time. I've told you about it a few times, but that substantiates to me why they're going to do it, okay? We also have Pempe working on a tax person to help us reduce our taxes when all this happens. I'm trying to buy Jana 5 more minutes because she wants to talk for about 20 minutes.
Somebody said, Mr. Brando, do you think the Vietnamese dong could go before Iraq?
No, because they haven't went through the whole procedures with the IMF as far as securing Article 8 and getting through the articles to get them international. I mean, not to get them international, but to get them into the international stage.
Kenneth said the gurus are mad that they sold their currency back.
Oh, the gurus are always mad. There's some very hateful people out there. Oh, my gosh. There's people in here. I got called a welfare rat the other day. I laughed so hard. A welfare rat. It goes, you welfare rat, you playing that noise. And I was like, but you're steadily on here watching. It just makes me giggle. Sorry. Let's talk about the deletion of the zeros. Okay, let's talk about it. So you have 2 rates. You've got the exchange rate and you've got the zeros off the currency. The zeros have to come off of those. There has to be a reinstatement of the currency, which gives that an influx. The question has always been, would it be off of the 1200 to 1 rate, the 0.00084 rate, and as well take it off the deletion off the actual notes themselves, how it all works. Just turn in. Hey, Lori. Mr. B connection with the IXS next Thursday, the 25th. I believe it is. I don't think there's no secrets in that. Are you still on track? Yep, giving you guys juicy info.
Yeah. The Bastard King said, welfare rat? What?
Yeah, I got called a welfare rat by some guy. And then his only excuse is that because I read you guys the news that it was somehow, in other words, jaded that I wrote it. But again, that just shows you the mentality of some of these people and their whole excuses. I've been involved in this 15 years. Years you failed because you followed the wrong things. You should have followed the news instead of following man, that you'd have got further. But the idea here is that you got to do a little research. You got to read. And if you got questions, you got to ask them. Remember, collectively, we're as smart as anybody. But as a singular mind, we're going to be as dumb as heck, okay? So we got to keep in mind each other questions and challenge each other to find the right answers. Challenge.
Yes, happy hump day, Remnant One.
Yeah, if Trump truly does have as many dinars as they say, I don't see why he'd want to hold it back. Hilda says, hi, Daisy. Daisy says hi.
Daisy said, Earth. She's chasing down.
I have a lawyer that trusts at Itchy Brown Eyes. Okay, y'all, we got a couple more seconds here. I'll call Jan.
Heard Iran was deleting zeros off their currency.
They are. They're talking about deleting 4 zeros off their currency, and they're trying to narrow the gap between the value of their currency in Iraq for a currency swap. Only problem with that is because they're under U.S. sanctions, They can drop 100 zeros off their currency. It's absolutely worthless. A guy told me the other day it's good rolling paper, but that's about it. It's worthless.
This guy says, I'm Killer Clown. I'm here, Mr. Brando.
Yeah, that's my doctor friend, Killer Clown. He's actually a very brilliant guy.
Okay, I didn't know what that means.
Yeah, he was the one who told me, and I'm gonna have him call in one day and explain it. Maybe on the rant I'll have him do it because it's a very interesting theory, and I'll even feed him a little bit of information. But it's a very interesting theory about how the dinar can revalue at a decent exchange return rate.
Oh Lord, I'm sorry.
Michelle says, hey, Michelle. Michelle hardly ever gets to tune in. I'm glad that she got to tune in. Okay, we're going to call Jan, you guys. That's our economist, and we're going to talk to her for a few minutes.
Do you remember the trust that she mentioned?
Jan? Okay, y'all, I have to get to Jan here, so this better be quick. Hello?
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Hello? Hello?
Hello, Mr. Brando.
Yeah, hey, it's Mr. Brando. How you doing? You're live.
Hi, Miss Billy.
Hi.
I got a quick question for you. So, your own opinion.
Okay.
They have a Arab country meeting in the 20th. And then they also, in the 25th, they're supposed to be launched the Iraq private bank.
Mm-hmm.
So you think that should be happening without no rate?
Yeah, I mean, think about it. If the Iraqi investment bank is just for Iraqis, yeah, they can launch it with no rate. It's not a big deal. You know what I mean? You see my point? Like, you don't need a rate to have a bank.
If they're going to have that meeting in the 20th and launch the private bank sector in the 25th, I don't think they should do. They're going to do that with the what you call it, the rate they have.
No, I agree. I mean, you're mixing up the Arab summit that's going on with the inclusion summit that goes on the 25th. I understand what you're saying. I know I get what you're saying. I totally get you. And trust me, if I was running Iraq and if they would listen to me for like 15 minutes, I could probably solve 3/5 of their problems just by telling them, here's how you activate your private sector. Here's how you stimulate it with funding through the ISX to get global currency without having to borrow any money. And the surplus of cash flow that would come in from online trading alone would probably bring their commerce up to 2 times their GDP, but they won't listen to me. So I have to go with this theory that they could launch their bank and they could have their inclusion, but they don't have to have a national rate to do it. Okay, my friend?
I wanted to get your
No, man, you got a legit. I mean, I'm not even trying to like say it like a smart butt to you. You see what I'm saying? You have a very, it's kind of like me saying to you to this. Do you think it's smart that Kia goes into Iraq and does manufacturing for Iraq, but isn't able to get their cash out of Iraq, even though South Korea is dealing with a very undervalued currency? Do you think that's a smart business move?
in the program with that
1190. I would venture to guess if I had Miss BB to look up South Korean's rate, it's probably less than that.
All right, thank you, sir. I just wanted to get your opinion on that. And let me let you go. Somebody else go.
All right, brother. Have a good one. Bye.
You too, man.
And I say that not to make fun of the caller. He brings up a very legitimate point.
No, I don't think he took it that way.
Okay, but all I'm saying
I think he's also kind of,
yeah, like, let me get off the phone. I think I got something to do.
Because, I mean, it's not that, but people are kind of shy. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I get it. And I'm not trying to bring out the ugliness in that either. You know what I mean? I just want him to feel good.
Hi.
Hey, Jan.
Hi, Jan.
Hello. How are you?
Hey, good. How are you doing?
Great.
You guys, we got our own in-house economist / wealth management superstar and the owner of our own crypto coin and a habitat that's going to be completely able to be self-sustaining in a humanistic way that's going to benefit the universe, our beloved Jan. And Jan's going today to talk to you guys a little bit about wealth planning, wealth management, and some other little tidbits you have to share with us, don't you, Jan?
That sounds great. Let's get started.
Let's do it. What do you want to start with? What's on your mind tonight?
Well, I wanted to actually pick up on when I was on your show last, and there were a couple questions people had about currency, how to treat the tax treatment of the gains on currency transactions. So, again, wanted to just kind of put it out there as far as what the current treatment is. And by the way, everything I'm going to talk about, please get your own advice from tax advisors. I'm not a tax attorney, so this is just based on my research and how I conduct things for myself.
Right.
So just take it as that, but do your own due diligence.
Okay.
So what I know about foreign currency transactions is that they are treated as ordinary income, which means they get taxed the same as wages and salaries. So that could be as high as 35%. However, there is a way to actually have that be changed to be treated as capital gains. Now, capital gains, as you would know, is a lower rate because it's basically property. And then when you buy and sell real estate, for example, and you're looking at a profit on that, it has a different tax treatment. But you have to actually file a special election with the IRS to do that.
Okay.
So it's just something to keep in mind that the default that applies for foreign currency transactions is for any gains is Section 988 for the IRS, and that makes it taxable as ordinary income. But you have to kind of file the special election, which is called Section 1256, but you have to kind of do it before you actually realize the gains. So before you actually sell your currency and get the profit from it, this special election has to be made at the start of the year. Keep in mind that before you actually do the transaction, you already need to have this election in place.
Hold on, Jen, real quick. Sean, I know the dong is international. I mean, for it to play in the international arena, not just be like a currency that's on the fringe of being something that it's not already recognized to be. That's what I meant. Sorry, I know it's international. I didn't mean to correct that.
Jen,
I'm sorry.
Jen, I got a quick question for you. So,
yeah,
with the treatment of foreign currency, let's say I go out and buy Iraqi dinar today, right? So we're in April 17th, and then the currency revalues or reinstates, and then I go cash it in. Would that not be considered a capital gain and a short-term one at that?
Not automatically. Not without this special election.
Now, so I would have to do the start of the year. I would have to elect.
Well, I mean, I would just suggest to have this form. So look up Section 1256. It's a special election, and you just need to kind of have it on file.
Okay.
You don't need to actually send it in, but you need to have it on file to show that you had made this election on a date prior to when you actually made the profit. And then you can treat it as, to your point, short-term capital gains, because it's not long enough, like it's not past a year, where you would want to be able to claim it as long-term capital gains.
Gotcha.
And when you say have it on file, how do you have it on file? Do you know?
Do you like have it notarized or something like that?
Yeah, you just want to have a date. You know, you can even backdate it, I would think,
right,
at the start of the year. But you want to, when you're filing taxes for this year, for example, if there's all the gains happen this year, then you want to show that you already had this election on file.
Okay, let's talk about something that a lot of people ask about, which is trust. What's the whole big deal about a trust versus a LLC, or why should people, when they achieve this type of wealth, what's the advantage points of having a trust, and what's the best trust for them to get?
Well, I mean, trust is its own field of study, really, and I can speak to what it looks like right now. But again, it is a arena that is it can always change, and I have seen it happen before, where what it's taxed at today is not how it's taxed at tomorrow. Governments can change tax treatment on trust. So don't take it as a permanent thing. Just know that changes are possible. But for now, and what has historically been the case, there's two types of trust that you can set up during your lifetime. So usually trust is something we associate with, somebody passing and leaving money for beneficiaries, and then it gets held for them in a trust, and they just get the income from it, for example. It is possible to set up a trust during your lifetime.
Okay.
There's two types of trusts. So a trust is basically its own. Imagine it to be its own person. It's like this fake person. So they file the trust files its own tax return at the end of every year, which is separate from your own personal tax return. So when you set up a trust, there's two types. One is called revocable, so you can revoke it because you set it up. And then there's the irrevocable, which is you can't cancel it. You actually relinquish your power to determine how the trust is run, and you kind of can't control it. You can't close it, for example. So once you give up control, it gets taxed differently. If you keep it revocable, meaning you still retain all decisions about the trust, then all the tax, like if you have profits in the trust and you take income from it, those get taxed in your own personal hands. So you got to actually report it on your own personal tax return. So it doesn't really give like a tax advantage to have a revocable trust, but trusts are used for reasons other than just taxes.
Okay. Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
A customer, I'm so used to talking about customers. A question was, and I don't mean to switch points to you. A lot of people are talking about like a living trust or an irrevocable trust. I don't know. Is that different?
Well, what I just described are two forms of living trust.
Okay.
Or it can be irrevocable. They can both be set up during your lifetime. So they're both living trusts. But the question is, how much control do you want over it? If you still get to decide to take money out of there and you decide to close it, if you want that kind of power, then that's a revocable trust. Okay. Can I ask you another question real quick? The irrevocable one is where you give up that power.
Can I ask you another question real quick? Totally off basis?
Yeah.
A person just asked, because of Iraq's they just bought a bunch of U.S. Treasury bonds. How does the bond market affect currency? Do you know?
Well, I mean, bond market does affect currencies because a Treasury bond is basically you taking a bet that country is going to pay its bills.
Right.
And so a bond has, it pays you an interest rate. So if you lend money to someone, you expect payment for having loaned that money.
Right.
Right. So currencies, the way they work is because the U.S. dollar is the reserve currency, it has a certain value based on what the interest rates are. So what the Federal Reserve sets as the interest rate, and right now it's above zero, it provides that interest rate to anyone who's lending money to the U.S. Treasury.
Right.
So let's say it's 3%. Basically, if you lend money to the U.S. Treasury, you are getting 3% in return for that money. And that means that the U.S. dollar's current value compared to, let's say, the euro, is set based on how much money can I get from the U.S. Treasury for lending it money versus if I were to lend that same money to the EU. And the EU's interest rate is set lower than what the U.S. interest rate is set at.
Oh.
That means you'll actually make less lending money to the European Union than you would lending money to the U.S.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, because I think, and I see this question out there as well. So, and this is back on the special election 1256. So you said have it on file. What do you mean by have it on file? Because I pulled up the form and it looks like an IRS form. Do we send it into the IRS or what do we do with that form?
Well, what I have learned is that you just need to just store it.
Just
So
fill it
you've
out and
got
store it,
like a,
right?
you know, document folder where you collect all your tax related information during the year. You want to have it stored in there.
Okay.
Okay.
Because
so
you will be sending it in when you file your taxes for that year.
Right. Okay. Another question that I have. This is this is the burning question that I was challenged with from my friend Nathan. Okay. And this is off trust again. So this has everything to do with revaluation or how do you evaluate a currency? So Jan, my question to you would be, because you're dealing with the cryptocurrency, how do you take something like a cryptocurrency that basically is based upon nothing, or it's like a fiat system in a lot of ways, right? How do you create a value for it and then create a demand for it, such as what they're trying to do with the dinar? How is that possible? How can they do that?
Well, crypto is even more
of a challenge, right?
Like fiat on steroids, because it is even more removed from anything. It's all just pure demand and supply, right? Very, very simple kind of market. Rather than, well, what does currencies, for example, you have to look at, well, Iraq's economy, its GDP, what it's growing at, what's inflation running at. You got like certain measures that are pretty standard to measure the strength of a country's finances. And so that's how currencies get valued relative to each other, like compared to each other. They are kind of like stocks. Why is one stock, stronger than another stock? Well, you look at, is it making money? Is it, does it have a huge growth in the future? So you kind of, currencies are kind of like stocks for countries.
Okay,
right?
so
you're comparing a country's future prospects and current situation versus another country.
Okay, so I'm going to throw out
crypto. With crypto, it's similar to that, except it's so new and the market is so new in its infancy. There's no standards like inflation, and all they really have is volume of trade. How many tokens each of the crypto has in distribution out there, how much liquidity is there? So, like, is it traded on certain exchanges?
Right.
Because there really are only very few exchanges which account for a large portion of trading volume. So it's not really as widely distributed as fiat is.
Okay.
So that means that it's more of an artificial market in some ways.
Okay, so quick question,
because supply is restricted, is also kind of controlled, because if you are in a certain country, you may not have access to be able to trade.
Right. So if you've got a country with like a great GDP, you've got a great growth rate of like 6.8, almost 7 points. They've got great bond notes. They've got gold. They've got oil. They've got one of the youngest populaces in the whole, continents as a whole. They're in the center of trade. They're sought after by basically every major company. Don't you think that value of their currency should be worth something more than $11.90?
Absolutely.
Just saying from a relative's point.
And that's what I mean. you can actually look at what is the true, this is what we call fundamental analysis,
Mm-hmm.
which is you look at the fundamentals, the building blocks
Mm-hmm.
of a country's economy to determine what it should be valued at relative to others, to other countries. But then you have to look at the government and special situations, in this case, for example, like the IMF and its role in the country's economy.
Right.
So it's kind of like putting an artificial ceiling, right, on whatever that value is, and that's really the situation with the IQD. As far as what I'm seeing,
Okay.
it's an artificial ceiling or cap
Right.
on the value. The true value of it is not reflected in the market.
Right. Boy. Okay. So the growth is there, the potential's there, and from your understanding, there is no if they're going to have to be on like the World Trade Organization and some of these international companies are coming in there, they have to have a currency that they can bring in and out of the country seamlessly, correct? Free capital flow, right?
Yes.
And to do that,
that is controlled right now.
Right. So the question that I have, the last question, and I know I'm leading you, is because we know it's suppressed. When I hear people say that they're never gonna RV, of course they're never gonna RV, but they are going to reinstate, and they're going to raise the value of their currency to make it applicable to their GDP, for their trade, for their citizens, and they're going to make it a value that's going to be advantageous because they want those 3-0 notes off the street. So, just throwing it out there, they have to give it a value better than what it's pegged at in some ways, or at least on par to get the citizens to believe in the product. Wouldn't you say?
Well, you look at, that's true. I agree with you. But if you recall what I mentioned last time when we spoke, it's really about the timing of it. And until all the larger pieces are in place, they can hold that balloon down for a really long time.
Right.
As has been proven so far.
Right.
Until the larger picture makes some sort of sense, or the players and the pieces are all put together the way that they want them to be put together.
Gotcha.
So it can be held down, even though it would, if left to itself, it would rise much higher.
Right.
But it's not a free market for the IQD.
Right. Okay. Let's see here.
So last time, Jan, you mentioned segregated trust. Do you remember that?
Yep.
Okay, so
I think the question had come up.
Are you there, Jan?
Yep.
Oh, okay. So segregated trust, can you explain to me what a segregated trust is exactly?
Yes, again, it's a kind of a taxation, tax treatment. In terms of where does the tax get assigned. So a segregation basically means control. So going back to my point about with revocable and irrevocable trusts, it's the same kind of thing where who's got control, and is it possible to demonstrate what assets are being held and who has control of it, and therefore who should be paying taxes for it? Who's getting the income? Who put in the assets into the trust? And are those assets, can you actually identify each of those assets inside the trust? So segregation has to do with, are you able to show who is the true owner of that asset, and account for all of the income and gains for that asset? So if you have a revocable trust, the tax bill goes to the guy or the woman who put in the asset into the trust. If you have an irrevocable trust, then the tax is to the beneficiary. whoever's receiving the income
Mm-hmm.
pays the tax.
So who gets the income?
Yeah, instead of who put in the asset into the trust. So if you think of it as a box, right? What goes in and what comes out, and who's receiving what comes out, and who's the one who put the asset in to the box.
And can you?
That's what's
Okay, so I got irrevocable. Can you do revocable one more time? I'm taking notes here. You said
revocable means that the person who put the asset into the box. So if the trust is the box, whoever put the asset into the box still has the power to decide to take that asset out anytime they want.
Now, is that person?
But in an irrevocable trust, they give up that power. Once they put it in, it's gone. That's irrevocable. It's irreversible. It's like one direction. It goes in, but you then no longer have control over it.
Okay, so
to take it out and to close the trust. So
with revocable, let's say I put the asset in, I could take it back out. Now, am I the person that's going to be taxed on that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You would be taxed on your tax return.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah. So it makes sense in certain cases where it's got nothing to do with the tax. Like you're not saving anything on taxes. But trusts are good if there's, and I've seen this before in some of my practice with certain families where, if the situation is such that you want to protect it from creditors, if you want to protect that asset from maybe not the most honest family members, then a trust is good because it provides, it's a separate person, right? So if they come after you, they're suing you for something, well, you're not, that asset is not technically in your name, in your personal name. It's being held in this living trust.
Okay.
So it provides a certain level of protection in those kind of cases, but that's got nothing to do with taxes. So tax is only one consideration when you're doing investment planning and wealth planning. There's lots of other things to think about, like protections from creditors, like estate laws, inheritance laws, those kinds of things, and which jurisdiction you're holding all of your assets. Are they all in the U.S.? Are they all in certain vehicles, investments, or are they spread out and diversified across internationally?
Now, Jan, I'm going to leave you with this last question, if you wouldn't mind. I love Belize. I've been wanting to buy my island in Belize forever, but you recently kind of notified me about Puerto Rico, and you said there were some great tax advantages with putting money into Puerto Rico. Could you go over that, and we'll close out with that real quick?
Sure. Yeah, so Puerto Rico has something called the Act 20 and 22, which it's one of, I think it's actually the only country or island in the world where a U.S. citizen can move to, but this actually is only for people who decide to actually move to Puerto Rico. They can basically reduce their tax bill down to zero.
Wow. So if I move to Puerto Rico right now, I don't have to have any taxes.
That's right.
Now I know you're in the island areas right now. I won't say where. Do you have a place in Puerto Rico?
No, I don't.
Jan, come on now.
There are quite a few who do. I actually am plugged into that as far as the lawyers and tax attorneys and people who've actually done it, who have moved from the mainland to Puerto Rico, started businesses. Corporate tax rate is also low. It's around 4%.
Wow. For
anyone who sets up a business in Puerto Rico. Now they do definitely enforce it as far as your residency goes. So it's not like you just kind of get a stamp and then still reside on the mainland. You actually do need to live in Puerto Rico in order to get this kind of favorable tax treatment. But
Yes.
it's a great place to live. So it's not like a hardship assignment.
Someone just asked a question on the liability of a revocable trust. Should one being sued, are the funds protected from breaching the funds through a lawsuit?
Yes, they are. That's
Okay.
the whole beauty of trust.
Right.
Is that it provides you with a certain amount of protection from lawsuits where they can't grab those assets because you don't own them in your personal name.
And Ed, I don't mean to say nothing bad or call you out because you're a good guy, but yeah, when you go into this exchange thing, there is actual IRS documentation about foreign currency exchange when it's made for profit as opposed to made for travel. So Ed, don't listen to your tax people on that one. Call the IRS if you're skeptical and talk to them about it. I've posted the forms on the community tab a couple times, or Ms. BB has, because I don't know how to do that stuff. But yeah, you've got to be careful of that, or you're going to lose a lot of money in taxes and not realize it when they claim it, when they go to you and say, how'd you come into your newfound millions?
Seamus said Monte Carlo, there's no tax either.
Oh, Monte Carlo. Is there tax in Monte Carlo, Jan? I know Seamus would know. He travels like that.
For American citizens, there's two types of taxation in the world.
Mm-hmm.
One is based on where you live, like which country you live in,
Mm-hmm.
and the other is based on citizenship. The U.S. taxes based on citizenship. So unless you renounce your American citizenship, you are subject to U.S. tax laws, no matter where you live in the world, except for Puerto Rico.
Okay. Jason, thank you. I know I love Guam too. Cayman Islands is a good tax haven. I've heard that also. Jan, I know I've taken up more than a lot of your time. You and I have talked about doing some wealth training for people that are interested in it and getting them in touch with you, starting a list here maybe in a few weeks or months for people that are interested in more of a one-on-one type consultation when they come into their newfound monies, hopefully, or allegedly, right? So I'm just dropping that little note out there. So if you like, I like what Jan's saying. I plan on doing a lot of work with Jan. Do you can you name the coin that you own too? Someone asked that, the coin that you're developing, or is it still in the infancy
I
phase?
can't yet. It's still under wraps.
Well, then we'll wait.
Seamus,
I will. Yes, I will. I would love to share more about that on a future
Me
call.
too, because you've got a bunch of people here that are interested in looking at it. Okay, go ahead.
And
For
Seamus,
sure.
Seamus basically said kind of what she was saying about the trust. The best benefits of a trust is having your dinar in it before the reinstatement. So if you were to get sued, you can only get the pre-value and the value you paid. So it's great for divorces, etc.
Right.
That's right. Well, that's what you got to think about. And I can definitely tell you that happens more than you'd imagine, where the guy wins the lottery and she walks away with half. So it's actually good to think about these things before coming into money than to think about them after.
Okay, last question. I'll let you go, Jan. Queen Crab, who's been with me a long time, said when she puts her foreign currency into the trust as an R, when it comes out of the trust, since it was taxed at the reinstated thing, am I causing another taxable event when the trust pays me as a beneficiary?
You are causing a tax event if you're taking that profit or that income out of the trust. But if it's an irrevocable trust, then the beneficiary, so that could be you, you're paying for it at a different rate.
Gotcha. You're paying at the revaluation.
You know what I mean? Like it provides, yeah.
I do. So meaning I bought a stock, I stuck it in the trust, and it blows up. I'm going to pay taxes on the value of it being higher because that's what I'm taking the money out at, not at the lower rate.
That's right.
I gotcha. Well, Jan, I think we have racked your brains. Again, I'm going to go out there and say that Jan has been more than super nice and kind with her time. We're talking about partnering on more stuff. She's going to come back and tell us about her coin. She's also going to come back and help some one-on-ones through some individual wealth management and estate planning and stuff. So if you're interested in those things, we'll get your information. We'll pass it on to her. And Jan, I will say goodnight to you, okay?
That sounds great.
And I'll
Thanks
just
for
tell
having
you,
me on.
yeah, 400 people watching you live right now. You did good. So thank you so much for your time, and we will talk
thank
later
you.
on.
Thank you for the information.
No worries. We'll talk again soon.
All right, Jan, we surely will. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, I kind of hung up on her.
No, she's saying bye.
Okay.
Saying her goodbye.
Okay, y'all. So I think that we've gone over a whole bunch as far as tax is concerned and as far as trust. I hope that it was beneficial to you guys. Again, because we didn't have a super amount of news coming out, we started to tell you guys how they can create a value in a currency that's undervalued. We talked about taxable clauses, tax havens. We talked about a lot of great stuff. So I hope this is beneficial to you guys. And I hope that you guys have an awesome hump day. I might do a rant tomorrow. I'm feeling rantish. So I might do a rant tomorrow about 11 o'clock or noon. You know how I do it. If Mr. Frazier and I get up and I get on my high horse about them not seeing the cabinet, I probably will do a rant tomorrow. So if you're into a good trouncing of the Iraqi government, then please stay tuned. I think tomorrow I will give them the trouncing of their day. I'm going to give them donkey of the day if they don't do what I want them to do. It's 8:14, you guys. It's been our hour's up, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow, and we will both see you guys again on Friday. Have a great night.
Good night.
Good night.